Okay, welcome to Buttons Part 2. As I mentioned, I was going to sort of pick up after Step 20. So as you can see, I now have two buttons. I have my go-to green ball button, and as I scroll over that, I get the overstate, and I now have a go-to red ball that has an overstate as well. Okay, so two buttons, three scenes, and those two graphics that sort of live in those respective scenes. So, step 21, it says on the home scene. So we're going to go over here to scene, and I'm going to click there. I want to insert two layers. Okay. I want to call one of these the red ball button. And I want to call the other one green ball button. Again, staying organized, etc. You're going to notice also that this scene is really going to end up being one frame long. We're going to come in, we're going to stop, and we're going to wait for something to happen in relation to these buttons. Okay. Now, it says step 22, drag the go-to green ball button onto the stage in the first frame of the green ball button layer. Okay, so here, let's go to green ball, and I'm going to go to my library. And I'm just going to position that. Okay, I'm going to do the same for the red ball button, layer, and button. Just position these. So I have two layers and now two buttons. Okay, go to green ball and go to red ball. Okay. Now, it says with the black selection tool, click on the green ball button on the stage. So we want to select that. Okay. Now, we're going to be using actions, just as the stop action is an action, but I'm introducing this new idea of code snippets. Code snippets, I like to say, are pre-packaged bits of code, and in this case, ActionScript. Just as an aside, when you make an ActionScript 3.0 file, you're making a file that sort of adheres to Flash's language, which is called ActionScript. And the version on this version of Flash is ActionScript 3.0. So you're making a file that sort of adheres to those bits of code. In this case, we're going to make life a little easier for ourselves, and we're going to use what's called code snippets. They are code that's sort of already made for you, and we're not doing tons of very complicated stuff, so we should use these. So I'm going to go to Window, Code Snippets, and then it says, I'm thinking here, it says, here we go, it says click on the second folder, which is called Timeline Navigation, and then we're going to go to the last thing. It says set of choices will appear. Double click on click to go to scene and play. So I'm going to click on this, and you're going to get this window, and this isn't necessarily in the instructions, but it says the selected symbol requires an instance name. Flash will create an instance name before applying the code sample. That's just fine. Okay. What that means is it's calling, remember there's this idea that something from the library is sort of the master version of that symbol, and then when we place it onto the stage, we have an instance of that symbol. Okay, so we might do something different later in the movie with a button, and we want to only apply what we're about to do to the instance. Okay, now it says in your actions panel, look for the line of code that says movie clip this route, and it's basically the last line. What you can sort of see up here before we sort of head into the actual code is a couple things. These first sort of grayed out set of instructions are simply that. They're instructions. It says clicking on the specified symbol instance plays the movie from a specified frame. It says instructions, replace scene 3, which is down here, with the name of the scene you'd like to play. Replace 1 with the frame number you'd like to play. What these are, these gray things up here, they're called comments. You'll see these little slashes up there. They are not in the code. They are simply usually what's considered plain English instructions to a bit of code. This is code down here, and you'll see that this button 1, that's what the instance was ended up being named. Okay. The rest of this is add event listener. It's listening, I know it sounds strange, for a click. And on the click, it's going to go to a scene. Okay. Now, the only thing we need to replace right here, okay, is this scene 3. You'll see that it's lit up in green. What you need to do is put in exactly, in capitals and all, exactly what the green ball scene is named. So I'm going to even go back and double check. I'm going to go to my scene here. It's called green ball. I want to make sure also that I'm on my green ball layer, which I am. So I'm going to go to scene 3. I'm going to highlight that, and I'm going to call this green ball. Okay. I capitalized both over here, so I'm going to capitalize both over there. Okay. Now it says repeat steps 20 through 28 with the red ball. So I'm going to actually close this out, and I'm going to do the same. Okay, I'm going to click on the red ball button. I'm going to click to go to scene and play. I'm going to get this same selected symbol requires an instance name. You're just clicking OK. And you'll actually see our old code right there. That's because it's all going to live in the same spot, and I'll show you that in a second. So I'm going to type red ball, and we're just going to the first frame of each of those, and it's going to play it. Okay, so I'm going to close this out. Now, what you hopefully noticed is a couple things. One is that you now have a layer that we didn't add, and it's actions up here. Okay, that was added when we started applying actions, and in this case code snippets, to these actions. You will also notice a little A, just like the A on the stop, okay, on our sort of simple stop layer. Remember, we made these actions 2 different ways. This one, we kind of typed it in, kind of hand-coded it or manually put it in. This one, we use those code snippets. We don't need to know exactly all the parentheses and commas and colons and everything. We can sort of apply these little code snippets and do a successful job at our movie. Now, before we go to step 30, I've done all this work, as maybe you have. Let's test this movie. It's thinking. Now, before we test the movie, I want to notice a couple things. One, I'm going to scroll over these. These seem to work, which is good. Over here in my scenes, and I'm looking at my FLA file, you'll notice that my home scene is first, my red ball scene is second, and my green ball scene is third. Everything in this movie should work correctly except for one thing, and that's what we're going to fix in a second. If I go from home to red ball will play and then go and play green ball. We don't necessarily want that. Okay? We want to play red ball and basically go back home. Okay? If we go from home to green ball is the scene that is the end of the movie. Okay? Once we get to the end of the movie, as you probably know from Flash already, it should go back home. Okay? So I'm going to show you how this works. So I'm on home right here, and I'm actually going to go to red ball. So I'm going to click, there goes red ball, and green ball is coming next. It's just playing the scene directly after that. Okay? If I go directly to green ball, it will play green ball. Green ball is the last scene, and it goes back home. Okay? So you need to understand how these scenes are structured in relation to these actions. It's just basically an order. Home is first, red ball is second, green ball is third. If we happen to go to green ball, the third scene, right off the bat, we're going to go back home. We are no longer working strictly from point A to point B. We kind of have what's called nonlinear stuff going on here. We can jump around, basically. Okay. So steps 30 through 35 have to do with sort of fixing that little problem. Now, the little problem exists in the red ball scene, or whatever scene is second in your movie. If it's green ball, it's going to be green ball, but I'm going to sort of go to whichever, and it says on step 30, go to whichever scene is your second scene in the movie. In this case, it's the red ball scene, okay, in my case. I'm going to insert a layer here. I'm going to insert a keyframe in the last active keyframe, or last active frame of the scene, okay. This is on my frame 60. And then I'm going to go to the Actions panel. And you guys can copy and paste from D2L. I know how to type this, so I'm just going to type this. And I'm going to type go to and I have to capitalize the and in the play, parentheses, excuse me, frame 1 of the home, and I got to capitalize home, scene. Okay? So I'm going to close this out. Now what I've done, and we got to think about this, I have put a little frame action, so we got to remember the difference between a frame action and the actions that are attached to the buttons. This is a frame action, meaning if it comes right here, it's going to see that, it's the last frame of the movie, and it's going to do whatever it says to do. In this case, it says go to and play the first frame of the home scene. The first frame of the home scene has a stop on it, so it's going to go to that frame and stop. So now let's test our movie. I'm going to go from home to red ball. Now before, when we just watched this, it went to green ball. It does not do that anymore because of that script we just put in there. Now we should just be able to go to green ball, go to red ball. Okay? So that's it for this buttons exercise. Next week we're going to do another buttons exercise. You should be working on laying out the potential choice in which your viewer is going to have when they get to, you know, do I want to recycle my metal can? No. Yes. Okay. You should be able to start laying these scenes out, presenting information, whether it's text, whether it's imagery, whether it's drawn stuff. At some point, your viewer has to be faced with a question, okay, or in this case, or in the project's case, a choice. Okay, are they going to do this or are they going to do that? All right. Email me with any questions. I'm going to be grading the last exercises as well as the projects in the coming week. As I said, next week we'll have another buttons exercise to work with. All right. Have a good week.